Welcome back to AI for Founders. I'm Ryan Estes, and today we sit down with Dave Polikoff, the founder of ZenPost, a content engine helping founders, consultants, and service providers turn one video shoot into a month of high-converting content. Dave breaks down how he built ZenPost into a systematized growth machine that scales personal brands, the frameworks behind consistent visibility, and how AI is transforming content creation at speed and scale. If you're a founder or marketing looking to grow your brand, streamline your content pipeline, and actually generate leads from what you post, this episode is your roadmap. And here, if you love conversations like this, you're going to love AI for Founders newsletter. It's where curiosity meets conversion. Every week, we break down founder frameworks, AI workflows, and marketing moves that actually move the needle. Join thousands of founders already getting smarter and funnier, perhaps, at aiforfounders.co. It's your unfair advantage in the age of AI. This episode is brought to you by Kitcaster, the easiest way to get booked on podcasts that grow your business. At Kitcaster, we connect founders, executives, and thought leaders with the world's top shows to share their story, build authority, and drive demand. Podcast interviews aren't just PR, they're pipeline. They generate leads, trust, and long-tail content that keeps working long after you hang up the mic. We've booked over 35,000 interviews for more than 800 clients, from bootstrap startups to billion-dollar brands, and the results speak for themselves. If you're ready to scale your influence, head to kitcaster.com/application and apply today. Your audience is already listening. It's time to start talking. That's Kitcaster by Moburst. All right. Coffee is great, but coffee won't prep your meetings for you. It'll just keep you awake while you panic, hastily scrolling through LinkedIn at 6:59 a.m. Ambient, however, will prep your meetings. Each morning, you get a founder-tuned briefing sourced overnight from your calendar, your meeting history, and the web. It's like walking into every call with a cheat sheet that you didn't have to write. No more scrambling, no more guessing, just context, confidence, and focus. And if you're raising money, ambient investor dossiers are an absolute must-have. You'll know the investor's portfolio, their interests, and their latest moves before you even step into the room. You'll even get a heads up on red flags. Think of it as the caffeine upgrade that your calendar actually needs. Prep while you sleep, perform while you're awake. Sign up for free at ambient.us. Go check it out at ambient.us. That's ambient.us. Yeah, I think that the Stones had a song about that. It's like, I see a white office and I want it painted black.
Yeah.
So this is just what we have to do.
Yeah.
I mean, this
it probably cost me more money in paint than it did for these panels, but it was worth it.
Amazing. Cool. I'm excited to have this conversation about personal branding. For an introduction to our audience, give us a little introduction to your company, ZenPost.
For sure. So yeah, Dave Polikoff, founder of ZenPost. Essentially, we help hidden experts become your industry's next chosen professional. And largely what we see is many experts come from corporate, whether it be that they got laid off or chose to leave during the pandemic and ventured off into their own kind of solopreneurship journey. And they're great at what they do. They can get results for their clients, but they're really terrible at explaining what they do to other people, especially translating that into content that other people consume and then trust and want to work with you. And so that's the gap that we fill. We work with these hidden experts to translate their expertise into content and their content into clients. And we do this by helping them create a content strategy, helping them prepare, the studio setup as we're talking about here, with how to record content. And then we even schedule a monthly video call with them where we actually ask them certain questions, capture their answers, translate that into professional video, and then even publish it for them. So we know you're busy. We know you have expertise, but you don't know how to actually find the time and know how to create content. So that's where we come in.
Amazing. Yeah. And it's kind of staggering how well kind of podcast content, podcast snippets perform in social media with short video right now, right?
Well, I think one of the key things is, and I actually put out a post about this the other day, where just repurposing podcast clips is not a full content strategy. And largely, if you're a professional like yourself who understands the podcasting space, understands content, you have a better eye for these things than I would say a lot of guests that might come on and get the raw footage from your podcast episode, and they might just throw it into like Opus Clip or some of these like AI tools, take whatever is given to them and then throw it up there because they think content is content. At least I'm publishing something. But I think there is a lot more to it in the sense of making sure that you're really finding the right stories to be told, finding the elements or those moments within a podcast that are worth sharing, and then editing it in such a way that actually captures attention early on when people are scrolling. So I agree that podcast clips can be really great for a content strategy, but you need to really think about what the editing style and what you're actually cutting from that podcast so it can perform well.
100%. It's probably kind of varies your personal brand, kind of what are the attributes, kind of how polished and professional you are or want to be. For some people, just kind of throwing it out there works. It largely I've seen for people that are physically really attractive. It's like, well, you're smoking hot, so anything you do is
because that's your hook. That is your hook. Yeah. Being attractive is your hook. And I'm sorry to say it, it works in the favor of women creators. If you're an attractive woman creator, a lot of times that can be your hook. So yeah, I would say that's something to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. And I ever since I started really doing a lot of video content, probably 2-3 years ago when podcast content really went to video pretty predominantly, boy, I never really kind of related to women, until then. Like how hard it is to like look presentable on camera for me. It's really hard. So, women, they have to, we just put it like this. In my shower, I got a bar of soap. And, that's for my face, my body, my hair, everything comes off that bar of soap. But my wife has at least, 6 or 7 different shampoos, depending on what the humidity it is. Plus, makeup, all that, plus the moisturizer and the routines. So it's like, yeah, be attractive is one thing, but man, it takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
Now that you would not notice any work that went into this whatsoever. This is me actually trying pretty hard, honestly.
It's funny. I have a skincare routine and I moisturize and such. And there's times where I will record in the morning after I've done the skincare routine. But I guess I haven't really gotten down the full effect of like, all right, if you moisturize too much, your face will look too oily and all that stuff. So I've recorded videos after like putting on a moisturizer, and then I published the videos, and then I got like random people commenting on my videos being like, man, are you like sweaty or like, you look so oily? And I'm like, I didn't even think about this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's you try to take some steps towards your personal hygiene and trying to look presentable. But yeah, now you have to really fix the hair, fix the skin, make sure you brush off all the pet hair before you record and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is an important conversation for men to talk about their skincare routines because, what I like for moisturizer is shea butter. And that's largely because when I was 19, I took this great African history class, and it was talking about the routines of Shaka Zulu in South Africa, who's like a famous warrior. And he was also famous for like being very regimented about his morning routines. And so he would go down to the river and bathe every single morning and then cover his entire body with shea butter. And so I thought, you know what? If it's good enough for Shaka Zulu, it's good enough for me. So ever since I've been using shea butter. Now you got to be really careful because to your point, I mean, I'm feeling a little self-conscious, look a little shiny right now, but I'll put too much shea butter on it. Like literally looks like I dunk my head in butter.
Yeah.
You know,
that's what I'm saying. I feel like women know they'll put the moisturizer on, but then I feel like they have some other things that they put on to kind of balance it. And these are all things, now that we're on video, we got to start learning ourselves here.
Yeah, totally. I'm looking at in my wife's side of the bathroom. I'm like, hey, what's that?
Yeah, right.
Concealer? Me again. Like, what does that do? Is that like spackle?
I had,
essentially?
I was ready to record the other day, and I had a little, little blemish, little, pimple coming in, and I'm like, I don't know if I can record today. I don't want this to, I don't want this to be on film. So yeah, we're going to have to start, asking some,
It's funny to poke fun at, but it's also real, and all of us have like a certain amount of insecurity, and you have to overcome some of that when you're committing to content. If you're like, okay, the first thing you're going to notice is, oh man, does my face really look like that? And then you're going to listen back. You're like, oh my God, does my voice sound like that? And there's this kind of like cliff of expectation you fall off that you have to kind of gather yourself at the bottom and be like, hey man, let's trust the process. Let's go through it. We can always do a little bit something better with the studio. There's always going to be a little bit better of a hair day that you have, plus or minus. You're always going to look back and be like, man, I look younger, or whatever it is. Like, it's never going to be perfect. But I feel like wrestling with this internal voice and doing it anyway in itself is a win.
Yeah, it's always a process. If I look back at the videos I made 2 years ago, there's a million things I could point out and say, oh man, I can't believe, I made that decision. And then it's like the 1% rule. Every video, you just kind of find one thing to continuously tweak and get better at. And eventually you find your rhythm. I think what's kind of interesting is like, we're talking about, I want it to be so polished and perfect. And one of the, there's an AI podcast, one of the big kind of waves that I'm seeing now where people are starting to just make AI avatars of themselves and mix that in with some strategic editing styles. And so in that case, you can always have a perfect hair day. You can always have the perfect clothes on and all that kind of stuff. But it's an interesting conversation to have because it helps you avoid all these pitfalls that we're talking about or these worries that you have. But in my opinion, I'd steer clear of just kind of becoming the AI avatar account on Instagram.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point too, that like we'll be able to customize our appearance however we want, First it'll happen in digital form, and then I'm sure through CRISPR and some kind of gene technology in 15 or 20 years, we'll be able to start rewiring. And like, oh, you want blue hair? Yeah, no problem. Take this pill.
Right. Right.
With peptides and stuff. I mean, it's going to get really squirrely.
Yeah.
But I think what it also does, I mean, we've had plastic surgery that's gotten better and better for years and years, which is fine for people that want to do it. But, I feel like for someone like me who's like, hey, I want to put content out. I realize I'm not going to be the hot chick at the gym. I'm not going to get those kind of views. But I do feel like I've made unbelievably profound relationships with people that have been from either creating content or distributing content. Now, you look at the landscape, we're going to have like AI enhanced features and everything else. I think for just like regular looking people is going to become like almost like its own kind of attraction in a way. We're going to get bored with perfection,
Oh, you think, okay, so you're thinking at what point is everyone just a perfect model on Instagram, and so it evens the playing field, if you will?
Yeah, totally. People will be looking at other people like, ooh, look at those love handles. Got some stretch marks.
Right, the pendulum will swing back the other way, right?
Yeah. Or it's like, it reminds me of, what was her name? The red woman in Game of Thrones, She was like super hot,
Oh, like
redhead.
Khaleesi?
No, not Khaleesi. She was like a witch.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. And then she was she took the necklace off and she became this old lady.
Yeah. She was just like this wretched kind of demonic looking thing, which is kind of interesting because we're starting to enter that phase of like, we'll be able to have the power if we go to wearables, and everyone has glasses and has the ability to throw filters on everything. So it would be like, instead of maybe your preferred pronouns, you'd be like, hey, I prefer you to use my personal filter. So people could look at me, and my personal filter would be like a giraffe, and you'd see a giraffe talking to you, and I'm just like, hey, that's my personal preference.
It's kind of like
you take that off,
like Fortnite skins, but in real life in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that seems like it'd be really easy, right? Now, you and I know startups aren't built in boardrooms. They're built in the wild, during 3 a.m. bug fixes, botched launches, and that one meeting where everything almost fall apart. That's what Code Story is all about. It's a podcast where tech founders break down the make or break moments behind their products, what went wrong, what went right, and what nearly wrecked everything. Hosted by Noah Labhart, Code Story goes past the highlight reel and into the honest stuff. Late pivots, brutal bugs, and somehow coming out alive with a product people actually love. If you're in the build stage, the scale stage, or the please let this feature work stage, I can relate. This show will speak to your soul. Listen to Code Story at codestory.co or wherever you get your podcast. Just search Code Story. It'll be right at the top. Because great startups aren't born, they're forged, one hard moment at a time. codestory.co. Okay, I've got a confession. As a podcaster and founder, I'm constantly meeting incredible people, guests, listeners, or other entrepreneurs. But here's my little secret. I'm terrible at following up. My inbox is basically a graveyard of missed opportunities. Does that sound like you? You meet someone amazing, exchange emails, have great intentions, and then life happens. 6 months later, you're kicking yourself thinking, I should have stayed in touch with that person. This is exactly why I started using warmstart.ai. And honestly, it's transformed how I think about my network. Instead of letting relationships go cold, warmstart analyzes my existing contacts and helps me identify who I should be reaching out to and why. It even writes the outreach messages for me. But here's the key. I review everything before it goes out. I'm not just talking about this because they're a sponsor. I'm talking about it because watching a healthcare executive use this to build his entire advisory board in one weekend with 4 CEO signups made me realize I was leaving money on the table every single day. Your network is your net worth, but only if you actually nurture it. Check out warmstart.ai, use code AIFF to get $50 off your first month. Stop letting your relationships turn into missed revenue.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine at some point you get to the extent where like AI, because Meta just came out with their AI glasses, which basically can just kind of like show you text messages and directions and stuff like that through just normal glasses. But I imagine, in the future, that's going to be to the extent where it can actually recognize a person and then change their features to, fully as well. But yeah, it's some things are cool and some things feel like it takes away from the human side of things that make us sane. And, it's going to be an interesting ballpark to play in the future and see, how much of this
we got a little time.
Yeah. I say in the future, but things are moving quick. So who knows?
I know. It's almost here now. I mean, we're basically in Black Mirror territory. So we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah.
Now, I want to talk a little bit deeper about personal branding for founders, because just about the entire audience of this podcast are founders. I'd say probably a third of them are venture-backed, which is to say that what my message is that if you're not doing personal branding and you're not using your online image, whatever these terms are, to sell your product as a founder, you don't even deserve to be at the top. You should pass the CEO title or whatever title to somebody else, because honestly, like there's the kind of stakes and the kind of cash and the kind of time that's involved in building these companies. It really requires someone who at least has the bravery to try. And if you're like, I'm a behind the scenes guy, I'm a technical guy, I don't care. You should look yourself in the mirror and be like, do I even deserve to have a position and a company and opportunities like this if I'm not willing to go all in and really put myself on the line? Because otherwise, in my opinion, you don't. So assuming that the stakes are very high for all founders, but particularly venture-backed people, particularly, you got 100 mouths to feed, you got 100 desks in cubicles that are all looking to you for like, hey man, everything's changing so fast, so rapidly, quarter to quarter. We need to have like very clear leadership right now on a quarterly basis. So what I'd like you to do is, if that's the bull case for personal branding, let's play devil's advocate. What's the bear case for personal branding for a founder? Why shouldn't somebody do it?
One arena, or one reason that you may want to not be as involved with personal branding for certain startups or those who are on their path to trying to get acquired is that sometimes a founder-led business where the founder is so associated with the brand itself, that makes much of the value of the business. And so when they go to get another round of funding or go to get acquired, there is some hesitation or stickiness when it comes to like, okay, well, you are the face of this brand. And so what's going to happen after we acquire you, or what happens if you get hit by a bus or whatever? The value of that business could potentially go down. We've seen that with like, what is it? How I Made My First Million newsletter, other businesses where just essentially you build up your personal brand, which attracts attention into your business. And that becomes, if that's like your main lead generation or brand equity, that's just tied to the founder.
What was their My First Million? Was that Sam Parr's thing?
Yeah, Sam Parr's, yeah.
Yeah. When he like left that, did their viewership
Well, I think because I think HubSpot had bought them. And I think he had stayed on for that reason. But it was one of those instances where like really you kind of saw him, like he was like the face, right? Because especially if you are a podcast or something where for example, like Diary of a CEO, Steve Bartlett, he is that brand, that company essentially. God forbid if something was to happen to him or they were to get acquired and he takes a back seat, how successful is that media company now? So in those cases, I think that's kind of maybe the thing to think about is investing into your personal brand is a necessity for everyone. But tying it too much to your business, where if it's the only way people are, if it's the only funnel into your business, you might see some issues with evaluations and acquisitions, because they're going to worry, all right, if we acquire you, then you have to come on as an acqui-hire and, make this transition and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's maybe one use case of, just at least being a bit more strategic with your personal brand.
It's a really good one, and it's probably a double-sided sword, because if, your personal brand is so big that it's creating a significant valuation in the company, that means you're famous. You've done something very right. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And there probably does become a leverage situation where it's like, okay, yeah, well, maybe it's not an acqui-hire as much as it is like, I am the official spokesperson for this brand moving forward. Now, there are certain situations where this is 100% right. If the brand is called Dave Pauly and you're trying to sell Dave Pauly, they're like, bro, like the product is you, Mm-hmm. Or if, within a service or product industry, that founder's involvement with the clients is so great. You see this a lot in agencies where they might have 2 or 3 humongous clients that do like 90% of their revenue. And that personal relationship they have with the founder is actually what feeds the entire organization. That's a tough one too. That's a tough situation where now you're kind of bound by the commitment you have, but you aren't famous, So those can be hairy too. You probably have to think about that early on, but that's less of a personal brand, but rather kind of a fulfillment thing on the backside. That are you going to, bring people in with that personal touch, and then you're immediately delegating it to a team that's running through a process. So the connection is always with the outcome of the service, not necessarily the attention from the founder. But that's a really important point, because especially if you're talking about consultants, you're talking about people that have that charisma, that's a potential downside.
Yeah. Largely personal branding is for most of the time is a gateway into some sort of offer. That's how you're monetizing your personal brand traditionally. Otherwise, other personal brand types, authors, speakers, where you are also the offer on the back end. So I'm a personal brand. I want to be a speaker. I'm hyping myself up. I'm promoting myself as an expert and a thought leader so that conferences and panels want to come hire me for their events. I am the offer on the back end. You're hiring me. Otherwise, it's, Hormozy is trying to build himself up as a thought leader and guru in the how to build your business space so that he can funnel businesses into his acquisition.com service. And so that's one of those other instances where, like, when you think of Hormozy, you think of acquisition.com. So if acquisition.com was to be acquired, could that be a point of contention there where people are like, well, are we still going to get new businesses in if Hormozy stops posting about it? But also, I think one key thing is when we look at ourselves, we have to think of ourselves as our own kind of umbrella company where we're not just one thing. So for him, for Hormozy, he also invested heavily into school.com. And then just by his personal brand was able to, as soon as he attached himself to school.com, their membership shot up, like a hockey stick, because now he's bringing over an entire community of people that fit so well into school.com. So he's not just tied to one thing, but it's kind of the reverse where the benefit, his personal brand benefited a new company that he joined versus the personal brand maybe devaluing a company because that's the only way people know it.
Yeah, Alex and Leela are just the most incredible example of ways that people of success with personal branding that nobody can duplicate. They are so talented and so good in so many different ways. They were an early client of mine right before they were bringing Gym Launch to sale. So we were booking them on podcasts right as they were kind of like Gym Launch was really hockey sticking. And it was funny because he was with us probably 6 months and then started, just blew up, but he did a YouTube video where he was literally describing like how he uses agencies to like learn best practices, develop SOPs, and then just bring it in house.
Yeah.
And it was like literally like right after he did it to me.
Is that he did it? He did the same thing for you?
Yeah, that's what he is. But you know what? I mean, that's the thing is that like if you got a service agency, ultimately it's about the execution. The barrier of entry is very low for service, which is great if you're completely obsessed with that service because you can excel. And if you can excel, you'll do just fine.
Yeah.
But that's always the thing. It's like, hey, people will learn, they'll steal from you. And then again, you're just going to be like, all right, well, can you do it better than me? And in Alex and Leela's case, it's like, wow, boy, can you ever. Like those guys are just such a force.
Machines, yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, that's why, I mean, you typically outsource certain things because you don't want to have to learn a new skill or hire resources and manage a new department. And you just go, listen, the SOPs, you have the talent, you have the know-how and experience. I'm going to pay a premium for you just to figure it out. But for some just absolute beasts like them, they're like, we know how to operationalize, we know how to hire talent, we know how to build. So as soon as we like know the playbook, we're okay with building that out. But that is certainly not for everyone, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's very helpful to have a ritual, to have a place I go, to have kind of a notes I have, to have a little bit of structure that I can operate in if I'm making content. If you're Alex and Leela, basically you're just walking with a camera in your face 24/7 and they just spit jewels like nonstop. It's like, hey, I got a tank top, a flannel, and my little nose piece. Let's go. I'm always ready.
Well,
and it's very high level, great stuff. I'm so impressed by them.
That's where I'll kind of make a connection of content strategy, and people think that they need to like, oh, I'll hire a D-Rock, for in Gary Vee's instance where he had that camera guy just follows him around. He's to and from in an Uber and he's just spitting out gems and clip-worthy moments at all times. And same thing with, Alex and Layla. And these people have just, they live and breathe content and they just learn the gift of the gab. People don't typically speak in sound bites. So not everyone should just go hire a videographer just to follow them around. Like Dan Miller? Same way, like no one speaks in these kind of clip-worthy moments. And to a degree, that's partly why I also mentioned podcast clipping is great, But as long as you can speak in a very succinct, clip-worthy moment, and you really nail what you're trying to say, and you start with a strong hook, to lead in and all that kind of stuff. Unless you really nail that moment, it's more difficult to like be able to clip that out later and have that be something that is going to perform well. So that's typically, not to like tie in services or anything, but that's typically why my clients enjoy the process we do a bit more, is because we lead into the conversation with prepping them on, here's the points we're going to talk about. Here's some notes that you can mention in your response. Here's a hook to include. And so when you go to create content, you kind of already have the cheat sheet in front of you. You have the answers. And so you can get that solid soundbite. Otherwise, you kind of have to like practice your boilerplate responses and get the gift of the gab in order to like really be on the ball with getting a solid soundbite.
You have to practice. That's the thing too, is I talk to folks a lot of times, and they're like, they want to go straight to the top. They're like, I want to be Alex Hermazi, and it's like, well, dude, that dude just ground the phone into a pulp doing sales calls for years and years and years to learn and to get as good as he is. It's like if a kid, you pick up a saxophone for the first time, you're like, oh, I want to play like John Coltrane. It's like, no, dude, you're going to have to practice. You pick up a skateboard, you think you can kickflip. No, you can't. You can't skateboard like Tony Hawk. Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
You have to get the reps in, ultimately to be really good at it. Now, there's going to be people that are talented, but even usually the people that are talented are just doing it all the time. And that's one thing that I really love about this kind of communication, is that I believe there is a virtuosity at the end of it. There is the John Coltrane of podcasting. There is the, Jimi Hendrix of like clips. It could be done. You know what I mean? But it really takes getting reps and practicing, which again, just comes back to being brave and ultimately like taking responsibility for yourself, that like, hey, I've got to get out there and do that. In fact, it's a moral imperative, because on one side, perhaps that's going to, if your personal brand is too tied into the brand and now you're kind of losing valuation, perhaps at an exit, think about it the other way. What if it's you don't have a personal brand at all and you get acquired, and now what are you going to do? Start over at complete zero? You've been building up this brand for so long, but you never took the time to build up yourself. So now nobody knows who you are. You don't have an audience. You don't have anything. You're starting at zero again. And then you find yourself in a situation like, well, I guess I have to start building my personal brand. I mean, it's like, I think Confucius said it, the best time to build your personal brand was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Maybe that was about trees.
No,
I don't know.
think it was about personal branding. I think you were right. Either way, it all relates. Yeah. No, 100%.
Amazing.
And the other benefit, because I host a podcast myself, and after the show, we always kind of do a post pod recap, and it always comes down to they love when I ask questions that they've never been asked before, because it allows them to kind of think about their business in a new way, or kind of come up with a new way of marketing or messaging their business that they haven't thought about before. And that the only way that they had gotten that was they needed to be asked that question that they've never been asked before. And that happens through just interviews. There's questions that you're asking me today, I haven't really thought about and had to kind of come up with on the spot. And so now I'm kind of like, puts me in a new kind of messaging mindset. And then there's times where you get asked the same question over and over and over again. And that's when you continue to, iron sharpens iron type of thing, where you continue to, figure out the best way to give that answer. And then all of a sudden, it's like actors going on their movie press tour, and they get asked the same 15 questions all the time, and they have like their responses. And then over time, you kind of tweak some things. You got a better reaction when you said it a certain way, and all that kind of stuff. And by the end of like a press or a podcast tour, if you will, and throughout a quarter, you now have like refined messaging at the end of that quarter that you can update your marketing materials, your website. You can turn that into content. It's it's beneficial.
And you do get very strong, with, for example, of like your introduction. Tell me who you are in about 90 seconds. You start to get your beats. I have my dumb jokes that I tell every single time because they get little laughs. What do? You get really good at telling that story. What's a great call to action? You get really good at telling that story. So, you're practicing here doing podcasts and stuff like that, but then you end up at a networking event, which for me, I kind of get clammed up. I'm like, I don't know what to, but you're rehearsed. So you've got your like quick 60-second intros, got a couple of beats, couple of jokes, and then you can flip it back over. Oh, what do you do?
Yeah.
So you end up feeling really charismatic when really the fact of the matter is you've just been practicing all your like little chuckle stuff. I
Yeah.
want to talk a little bit about some just the metrics of your business and kind of how you're running things. So let's start with, price point. What is kind of your core offer? How much does it cost? And who's the best customer that you like to work with?
Yeah. So we have a few different offers. One is the fully done for you service. And that's where it's people who are just handing over the keys essentially and going, I don't want to have to worry about content strategy, recording content, editing content, all that kind of stuff, posting it. And that's the full done for you service. And that starts at $997 and then goes up to $2,500 a month based on how much content are we actually creating and editing and publishing for you. And then there are those who are like, you know what, I'll work with a video editor and I'll kind of take it over, but I don't understand the whole content strategy thing. Help me kind of point the direction of the ship and tell me where to go. And so that's the ZenPost Accelerator, where we're just working with you to help you get set up in content strategy, help you professionalize your video style, create your video editing style, and even bring in a video editor. And then from there, you're able to kind of like take over the ship. And that's $2,500 just for that. And then we have people who are just like, I kind of want to piecemeal this one by one and kind of learn some things at my own pace. And so we have ZenPost Academy, which is a community. And that's a bunch of just kind of mini courses around how to set up your content strategy, how to set up a studio at your house, how to edit content, how to publish it on social media accounts, hooks, scripting, all that kind of stuff. So really just at any kind of pricing level or at any professional level, there's kind of a solution there for you to help you figure out what you need to do and then sometimes even do it for you.
Brilliant. So done for you, done with you, do it yourself offers. I love that. How many clients currently you got on kind of the done for you?
We have 10 clients on the done for you.
Nice. Yeah. And then how big's the team?
It's small, largely led by me, and then we have contractors. Part of it is also run by content automation and AI, but we're nimble in the sense of really it's the content strategy, recording, and then editing and publishing, which really just requires a few specialized staff in the background.
Amazing. And what's your biggest driver for new customers?
Right now, it's my personal brand. So we're talking about that. We have a podcast, personal brand blueprint. I invite on experts. They talk about their expertise. Some of those turn into clients. Otherwise, we also kind of promote ZenPost through that. So it's kind of our distribution. They distribute the podcast, and that brings eyeballs back to ZenPost as well. My social accounts on LinkedIn and Instagram largely. And starting to kind of, this isn't anything right now, but starting to get into more of co-marketing experiences. So kind of evolving the podcast into more of like a co-branded workshop, and then kind of tapping into the podcast's audience. So bringing people into like a live webinar workshop type of event that's like co-branded by ZenPost, and then using that to using the replay to be put behind a landing page. So if people want to watch the replay that didn't attend the live event, opting in to the replay and then kind of remarketing that way.
Amazing. Where can people hear the podcast?
It's on YouTube and all major streaming services. Again, it's Personal Brand Blueprint. So that's on YouTube and Spotify, Apple, etc. But yeah, it's right now it's largely bringing guests on and talking about their expertise, but I'm actually starting to do some breakdowns of top creators So I'm going to take their Instagram accounts, their social accounts, scrape out their content, use some content automation that I've built that actually looks for their top performing posts, transcribes those posts, and then uses AI to analyze them, and then go through and actually break down what topics they cover, the formats of their videos, what hooks are they using, what's their content funnel, what are the landing pages that lead that you're led to, what are their call to actions and their giveaways and all that. And so that's going to be kind of a new version of the podcast coming out soon as well, where you'll be able to take top creators and kind of see what their content strategies and content conversion strategies are.
This episode is brought to you by MoBurst, the AI-first growth engine trusted by iconic startups like Calm, Robinhood, Reddit, Uber, and Google. MoBurst is a digital full-service mobile-first marketing agency that helps companies to scale and become category leaders. Whether you're finding product-market fit or ready to accelerate growth, MoBurst delivers creative, data-driven solutions that help with scale and efficiency and impact. At MoBurst, we're not just guessing what works, we're predicting it. As an AI-first agency, MoBurst uses cutting-edge tools to analyze user behavior, adapt creative in real time, and uncover hidden growth opportunities. The result, marketing that's faster, smarter, and built to convert. From early-stage startups to global brands, we've helped hundreds of companies overcome complex challenges, unlock new audiences, and optimize every metric that matters. At MoBurst, we believe that creative thinking, advanced technology, and data are the core drivers of success at scale. If you're serious about scaling your business with precision and purpose, it's time to talk to MoBurst. Visit moburst.com and let's build something category-defining together. Hey founders, let me ask you this. Are you building with AI or getting left behind by it? If you're serious about scaling smarter, faster, and bolder, you need to check out aiforfounders.co. It's your go-to resource for cutting through the noise and actually using AI to grow your startup. Each week, AI for Founders drops a sharp, no-fluff newsletter, dives deep with expert guests on the podcast, and hosts monthly workshops where you can get your hands dirty with the real tools and strategies. Whether you're pre-seed or Series B and beyond, launching something new or just staying sharp, AI for Founders gives you the edge you need to win in 2025 and beyond. Hit aiforfounders.co to subscribe to the newsletter, tune into the podcast, and grab your spot in the next workshop. And it's all free. Build smarter, move faster, think bolder with AI for Founders. Now back to the show. I love it. Okay, I want to do quick time with slime. You ready for a little game?
Sure.
Here's the rules.
You have to say what are the rules?
It's either this or that. If you say both or neither, you have to hit yourself in the head with a hammer. So you have to pick one or the other.
I was not informed that I needed to bring a hammer to this.
If you need a hammer will be provided for you.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Here we go. Consistency or virality? What should you pay more attention to?
Consistency.
Particular reason?
Virality doesn't equate to dollars. So I would rather have 100 views and $100,000 in my account versus 100,000 views and $100 in my account. Virality, a lot of times people are trying to go viral, but they'll go viral for the wrong thing and then bring in the wrong audience. And these aren't buyers. They're just people who are interested in that one video.
How about depth? Long form content or breadth? Frequent posts?
Depth. The long form content, basically you want to bring your audience from your short form content into your long form content. Short form is for discovery. Long form is for relationship building, really demonstrating your expertise. And yeah, YouTube, podcasts, these are the times to do that. People spend more than 8 minutes with you. They're going to feel much more connected to you rather than 30 seconds on Instagram or TikTok or whatnot. So, you know, the longer they spend with you, the more they're going to feel interested in who you are and your offer.
Evergreen content or trend chasing content?
Evergreen content. This kind of goes back to the virality thing. I think trend I won't call it trend chasing, but seeing a popular format that seems to be performing well, we'll say, definitely try that out. That should be part of your content strategy. I would not bucket that into trend chasing, because if it doesn't make sense for your brand and it doesn't add credibility and value to your brand, don't do it. But there is a time and place for seeing a new style of content that could also perform well for you, that also plays into your content strategy. You should still do that, but that should be a smaller percentage of the content you put out.
Okay. Nice. And here's a last one for you. Just personal preference. What do you enjoy more? Do you like actually completing the done for you work for clients, or do you like teaching people how to do it for themselves?
I like teaching people how to do it for themselves. I think, in any case, being an artist, you create something for other people. It's open to scrutiny and nitpicking, and there's a collaboration there that sometimes the other people don't kind of see your vision, and there's some back and forth there, and there can be some friction in that type of process. But being able to kind of give the tools to other people and allow them to empower them to be able to do it themselves and build what they want to build, that just feels much more freeing. And I feel like the end result is they're happy with it. And as long as it's benefiting them and it's working, that's all that matters.
Amazing. Last question, Dave. This has been so much fun. You've got a great business model. You kind of solopreneur, built a strong team around you. You got lots of clients, but being a founder without like a co-founder or team behind you can be lonely. Like, how do you kind of battle the loneliness?
That's a very good question. And I think a lot of solopreneurs can probably relate to this. I work, like I said, I have a 2-bedroom apartment. I work at home. So my commute to my office is not very large. I'm not passing people on the street on my way to work. And one thing I've dedicated for myself in this year was to just once a week connect with another founder for coffee or just outside the office. And so that's one way just to kind of get myself out and still feel like I'm out there next to a water cooler, catching up on life with someone else. I also have weekly check-ins with some other kind of accountability colleagues of mine. It's virtual, but it is that time where we can just kind of like shoot the shit and talk about whatever we want and not have to be too businessy. So whether it's digital or actual in person, I try to schedule time for myself to still collaborate with other people. And also too, I have my personal brand blueprint podcast where I have video calls with people all week long. It's not the same as being, live with someone, but I still get to kind of just experience, have some business talk outside of just me and my cat at my apartment.
Amazing. Zenpost.com, where you can check out Zenpost. Dave, where's the best place people can connect with you online?
Yeah, best place would be Instagram. It's Dave Polikoff. As well as I said, I have the community where I'm in there answering questions as well. That's Zenpost Academy. And we actually have a few mini courses in there, one of which is getting started with content automation, which is typically a paid course. But if you do come from this podcast, when you sign up, then we'll provide that to you for free.
Hey, appreciate that. Say it again.
So yeah, it's Zenpost Academy on school.com, SKOOL.com. We'll provide a link for the show notes as well, but it'll be a special link. So if you sign up to the free community using that link, we'll see that and we will unlock the content automation course for you for free.
Appreciate that, Dave. Thanks for coming on.
For sure. Thanks for having me, Ryan. This was awesome.